let's go. I should probably create another save. Actually, what if someday the game crashes while I save and the save gets corrupted and then I don't have another one? But okay. The goats were surprised by Leonard's sudden appearance and stepped back. In the center, Beatrice cowered in tatters, sobbing. Oh no. What's this supposed to be? Did I close the door? Did. Leonard, Inquisitor of Heresy? My apologies, but I have something to say. There is someone who has an objection to this ruling. His name is... Oh, finally! Man, I was waiting for this. It was Umineko Battler. Is it time for that song? Is it time for that song? The song I've been waiting for? All of the goats stared at Battler. What is unsatisfactory about the court's ruling? Do you possess any new evidence or truth sufficient to request a retrial? I get it. Leonard's offering me a helping hand. If she hadn't jumped in here, it'd all be over. And now I fully understand how I'm supposed to fight. I think it is that song. That's the first song I ever heard when I listened to the soundtrack, and I've been waiting for it to appear ever since. But because I understand how, I am unable to fight right now. I fully understand how I'm supposed to fight, but because I understand how, I am unable to fight right now. After all, I can't win by simply countering Erica's truth. If I want to deny her truth, I'll need to present a different one. And I still don't have a clue what that truth is. Wait, do you not? Oh, sorry, I cannot read. The music is too cool. There is nothing that is not healed with time, and there is no truth that cannot be reached if you spend enough time searching. However, all trials have a limited time in which the truth must be decided. Therefore, a truth that cannot be reached within that limited time cannot become a truth. Yeah, I know that. And now everyone is certain that Aunt Natsuhi's the culprit. It might be too late now, even for the real truth. Aunt Eva's violence will probably go unstopped, and no one is even thinking about protecting Aunt Natsuhi. It's no longer a situation where we can say, oh, the truth will eventually be found. And in this world, the time remaining to expose the truth is very short. It's already midnight, at the game's end. The police won't come. The truth won't be revealed. Only the truth decided upon here and now will remain. Listen to that piano, man. I slowly stood up, walked in front of Beato, and faced Leonard. I have no plan. I don't know the truth. So this is Ace Attorney Umineko style, basically. However, if I don't jump in now, I won't get another chance to fight. The red used by Erika's group is mercilessly strict. I seriously doubt that I can put together a truth where Aunt Natsuhi isn't the culprit without violating that red. Why the uncertain face? How pathetic. Damn it. Battler. I'll be the one to kill you. I want to keep that promise. And yet, right now, I don't have any plan at all. That's okay. In this world, there is no truth. The truth is made later on and overrides what comes before it. Real truth doesn't exist. Sorry. Doesn't exist anywhere, okay, thanks. Now this is a splendid scenario, Leonard. It just wouldn't be interesting unless a knight appears before the prince's execution, and there's nothing better than watching heads roll before your very eyes. Erase the old piece, and the unneeded player all in one go. As you wish. Glory be to the great Lady Berncastel. I am the head Inquisitor of Heresy, Leonard Adox. Oh man, that face. Step forward, Umineko Battler. Damn it, I've got nothing more to lose. If you want to see me struggle, I'll show you. Oh, they stopped the song already. The only reason Erika's theory is so strong is because of those seals. She was given red so quickly just because Lambda Delta easily bought the alibis created by those seals. Yeah, I was actually wondering about that myself overnight. How much can we really trust this whole seal situation? That, I don't know, it just seems so... Did she really have the time to check all of them? Did you really have the time to place all of them? I don't know. There must be something wrong with that. Something where we can attack might be these seals. But the seals aren't red truth. Just sticking paper in a door crack is far from perfect, yeah. When I was lying in bed yesterday... Sorry, I'm gonna turn on the volume a bit. The song is really loud for some reason. When I was lying in bed yesterday, I was actually thinking about if there is a way that you could remove the seals, do something, and then apply them again in a way that makes it look like you never left your room, even though one of the seals is on your room. But I don't know. Just sticking paper in a door crack is far from perfect. It was written in red. But what was written in red? I guess that the... Yeah, just like... Okay. There's no way something like that can prove anything with certainty. Begin, battler! Ready to let those goats turn you into a pile of meat along with your beloved Beatrice? Oh, and I'll mix the leftovers from your precious sister into that pile. Well, thanks for that. Wouldn't that make for a wonderful stack of meat? Then we can wrap it up in a dumpling, steam it, and maybe add some soy sauce. No, the best way would be to fry them in a pan with some eggs and ketchup. Damn it! Can't we doubt the reliability of these seals of Erika's? Something like wedging some paper in a door can create a perfect alibi. It might be that someone noticed by chance and happened to put it back in the same place. The blade of my blue truth should have slashed diagonally through Glennor's chest. However, Glennor's expression didn't budge in the slightest, and there wasn't a single wound on her chest. I was wondering what you'd throw out there, but this is ridiculous. Allow me to explain. This is what I sealed the doors with. Did you think this was paper, Bethlehem? Erika once again held up the thing that looked like brown paper. This is packing tape, and its adhesive power. Its adhesive power is extremely strong. I used scissors to make it easier to tear. Furthermore, I wrote my signature, which cannot be reproduced, in 3 places: across the tear point, across the edge between the door and the tape, and across the edge between the tape and the door frame. Therefore, it's impossible to tear it off without leaving a mark, and it's impossible to reattach too. Permission to unsheath the red key. Granted. Due to the above, the seals are guaranteed to be perfect. Miss Erika's seals were not broken by anyone, and deception is impossible. I'll acknowledge Erika's seals. However, Aunt Eva's seal on Genji-san's room should be different. Eva's seal was of the same type as Miss Erika's. That is because this method of sealing was one that Miss Erika and Eva conceived of together after dinner. Erika did something about a scientific investigation and fished through the chemicals in Grandfather's room, right? There might have been some kind of solvent in there. If you use that, you might be able to tear off the packing tape without leaving fingernail marks. Please allow me to speak. It is impossible to tear off any of the seals by any method without leaving marks. Please allow me to speak. There were no suspicious marks on any of the seals. Therefore, it's been proven that nothing was done to any of the seals. Repeat it. Rest gladly. All of Erika and Eva's seals were not tampered with in any way that hindered their ability to act as seals, such as being scraped off. Damn it! Damn you, using packing tape that leaves marks all over the place. Damn you indeed. Lena is my only enemy. There's also her subordinates Gertrude and Cornelia, and also Erika and her master Bernkastel, and even Lambda Delta, the one who hijacked Beatrice's game. Everyone in this cathedral is an enemy. That fierce rush of red immediately repelled my feeble truth. It's obvious why. I don't have any alternate truth. Even at this final stage, I have nothing. Were the seals all that you had to discuss? You promised to give it everything you've got. If I only knew a truth that could prove Natsuhi's innocence, if I could only make a theory that weaves its way through Erika's red. Damn it, I don't know anything. Do you have any chance of winning? I left it at home. Mind if I go back and get it? I have already lost. I am prepared for my fate. I promised that I would kill you, so I won't let anyone else do it. I'll definitely keep that promise. Liar. I'll never trust your promises again. Huh? When did I ever make a promise to you and what was the lie? After hearing you say that, hell might not be so bad. Huh. So she kept talking about his sin in episode 4. Does it mean he promised something and didn't stick to it? I don't know. Kill us, spam Castellamba Delta. Beata let out a shrill cry, overcome with laughter. It was a broken laugh, and tears streamed down her cheeks. Bella's words would no longer reach her ears. She kept on laughing insanely like a broken record. Is it over? Pitiful. I truly am disappointed, Ushidomiya Bella. Kill me, Leonard. Slice me in half with that red long sword of yours. Let's assume that there exists some method X that can lead someone to the second floor of the guest house without passing through the lounge. Erika claims that the windows and such were sealed, but she cannot prove that she sealed all possible means of entry. There's a possibility that Erika was unable to seal entrance X because she couldn't find it. Nox's third. It is forbidden for hidden passages to exist, as the detective Miss Erika sealed all entrances. Passages that the detective cannot find are hidden passages. Therefore, there are no entrances that Miss Erika cannot find. I present the possibility that Erika's lookout in the lounge wasn't perfect. During the 2 hours Erika spent there, she really observed everything without looking away for a second. It might be possible for someone to have passed through the lounge during a small gap without at least Erika seeing them. Please allow me to speak. Lady Erika's lookout in the lounge was perfect. There were no small gaps or carelessness, or times when she looked away for even a second. Please allow me to speak. Therefore, during their entire meeting in the lounge, only Rosa went up to the second floor. So what about Rosa? What if Rosa started killing them, and then was found out by Aoife, who then killed Rosa? I don't know how that would even make sense. But that was all really... Was that really Aunt Rosa herself? There's a possibility that someone disguised themselves as Aunt Rosa. Or maybe she was actually holding a large suitcase with someone hiding inside it. Noxus 10. It is forbidden for a character to disguise themselves as another without any clues. There have been no hints suggesting that someone had disguised themselves as Rosa. Furthermore, Erika has confirmed that she wasn't carrying any luggage large enough to hide a human in. Aunt Natsuhi was being threatened by someone. The uninvited, unknown guest X is the true culprit. How can you be sure we're the only ones on this island? The true culprit is someone else. Noxus first. It is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. Maybe they were killed with poison in a remote murder, with a strange drug that can make a cut appear in someone's necks when they die. I actually did think of poison myself, but then I let go of that thought because they have the cuts on the necks. So I guess that's... That type of murder has a delayed effect, so even with an alibi... Noxus 4th. It is forbidden for unknown drugs or hard to understand scientific devices to be used. There's a chance that there existed a murder device X in the cousin room and Genji-san's waiting room that made a remote murder possible. I also thought of that, but again, I find it unlikely. It had some secret mechanism that still hasn't been discovered, and also I guess it breaks the commands as well. Nox's 8th command. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Anyway, there exists a culprit other than Aunt Natsui. If you want to deny that, try and repeat in red that none of the appearing characters were the culprit. Nox's 6th. It is forbidden for accident or intuition to be employed as a detective technique. You say that everyone except Aunt Natsui has an alibi? You're forgetting one person. Who's gonna prove that Erika herself has an alibi? So we're gonna be the detective cannot be the culprit. Nox's 7th. It is forbidden for the detective to be the culprit. Unless she's caught red-handed, you should never be able to deny the possibility that Aunt Natsui is innocent. Can you even deny future possibilities, like if a piece of evidence X that Erika hasn't discovered proves Natsuhi's innocence? Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. This tale is filled with malicious lies. The tale itself has become a trap to capture Natsui. The tale should be constructed only from impartial truth. Nox's 9th. It is permitted for observers to let their own conclusions and explanations be heard. I was the culprit, so maybe I gave George, Aniki, and the others a slow-acting poison to make them die after midnight, and silently slit their throats when I returned at 3 a.m. I could have done it so quietly that Erika wouldn't hear. Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Everyone committed suicide, so there is no culprit. Please allow me to speak. All victims' deaths were homicides. Erika didn't personally examine the corpses, right? It should be possible for people who aren't the detective to make a mistake when examining corpses. Please allow me to speak. Know that no examination of the corpses could have been mistaken. Then maybe they were body double corpses. They prepared corpses beforehand that closely resembled the victims. Know that no corpses exist except those of characters who have appeared in the story. Then how can you claim that Uncle Klaus is dead without his corpse? Doesn't that violate Nox's something or whatever? Or something? Know that the red truth is simply truth, and there is no need to provide evidence or proof. What the? Damn it! In the face of these insane arguments, any attempts to overturn the truth where Aunt Natsui is treated as the culprit are completely meaningless. Each time I brandished my desperate blue truth, Leonard and the others' red truths knocked me down to the floor. It was getting hard to even stand back up again. Does that mean my body is telling me that I'm about to surrender to the truth where Aunt Natsui is the culprit? The red truth is getting more and more perfect. Each time I think I can slip through a chink in their armor, Leonard smacks me down with the red longsword of Nox. She's still lost, I guess. Beato. That's enough, Butler. Now the endless torture that torments me, no us, will finally end. Let us fall together to the depth. I don't want to see Beato like this. Her Majesty as the ruler of the Golden Land, her enthusiasm as my rival are completely gone. She's just a pitiful woman who's been trampled over and lost all hope, with tears streaming down her face and a tragic smile that I can't bear to look at. Does your truth no longer exist? No, I have one last thing. And that is a different truth where Natsuhi isn't the culprit? That's not it. All I can do is prove that Natsuhi isn't the culprit. After that, I can't show what the real truth is at all. But even so, maybe at least you'll be saved that way. Why? I can show without a doubt that Aunt Natsui is not the culprit. However, I cannot show a different truth. If Erika's truth is dispersed, the crime will return to darkness and there might still be room for you to exist. Yeah, if you can do it. But if you can show a new truth, that means you're incompetent and useless as a player. I'll have you vanish from this game board for all eternity. At this point, the game master is Lambda Delta, and she is there too. This probably doesn't mean losing a single game, but being banished from this game for all eternity for losing. From what the witches have said in the past, I can faintly imagine the place pieces are sent when they're banished. It's known as the depths of oblivion, an eternal darkness that lies on the far side of an eternal oblivion, and where there is no concept of life or death. I'm going to disappear, aren't I? However, Beato will remain. As long as Beato remains, no matter how suspicious aRdW is, there will always remain space for the witch to be the culprit. In other words, room for aRdW to not be the culprit. As long as that space exists, someone will eventually expose the truth. It doesn't have to be me. Anyway, eventually someone will smash this fake truth to pieces. I understood that the time had come to abandon myself for the sake of this other person who would eventually appear, for the sake of the real truth. Well, it looks like I'll have to break my promise to kill you after all. Don't leave me as the only one alive. I'll disappear with you. Let that be your final tribute to me. I beg you, if you just do this one thing, I don't need anything else. Have you used up everything you have? I really am disappointed in you, Ushidomiya Battler. Quickly perform his requiem. That way I'll have an open field in which to expose Natsuhi-san's sin. These guys really are interesting. Beatrice, Ushidomiya Battler. But I've gotten tired of this. You aren't needed in our game. Do it, Lanner. This is the end. If you still have one last bit of power, let me see you muster it now, in your last moments. It's small, but it's a sparkling red truth. The last trump card Vigilia gave me. Erika, this takes your theory back to square one. If you can, why not go ahead? Take this. Ushidomiya Natsuhi is not the culprit. In red. The red truth is simply truth, with no evidence or proof needed. You said it yourself. This will make Glenor stagger. Even if that's all it does, it's the first and last strike I can make. What? Nox's second. It is forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique. Huh? My red truth was blown away by Flanner's red longsword? In this court, if anyone other than witches is going to speak the red truth, they'll have to construct an appropriate proof for it. Erika has been following this procedure, right? True, Erika hadn't used the red herself even once so far. She always had Bernkastel, a witch, repeat her statements. Your red truth isn't something you obtain for yourself. It's a supernatural truth given by a paranormal being. In other words, it isn't reasoning. It's no better than a random thought. In that case, if I have Vigilia say the same red truth, where is Vigilia? Her head is over there, her leg is over there. If you are to present that red truth, you must construct an appropriate argument. Can you do that? No, it's impossible. I just have the truth that Natsuhi isn't the culprit without any basis or evidence. See, real truth is a very fragile thing. Does real truth exist, and is it necessary? Even without it, the tale will continue on. Battler? Come on, Battler. Prove the red you have shown. Oh, that's Leonard. If you cannot, this is goodbye. Then, goodbye. Sorry, Beato. Don't say that. Thanks for sticking around with me. It was such a bloodstained tale, but it was fun. The trial is now finished. Finished. Okay, which game are we going to play next? Oh, Hold. With that, the trial for the 5th game ended. The detective Fudodo Erika accused the culprit Ushiromiya Natsuri. There are 3 riddles that the detective must explain. The first is the whodunit. Who is the culprit? As previously stated, it is Ushiromiya Natsuri. The second is the howdunit. How did they carry out the crime? During the hour between midnight on October 4th, 1986 and 1 the next day, Ushiromiya Natsuri went to the cousin room on the 2nd floor of the guest house and the servant waiting room on the 1st floor of the mansion. There she carried out the murders. It is only possible for the crime to have taken place during that hour, and for that 1 hour, alibis have been proven for all characters except Natsuhi. You mean, Furai mi Tuzamun? From the sky, a massive red longsword, even greater in size than the one Lanner held, came crashing down like a thunderbolt, piercing through Bellows' heart and pinning him in place while he still stood. In that instant, Beatrice became a golden splash and faded away, and her former minions disappeared as well. As the heartless witches looked down at the cathedral's center, laughing coldly, all that remained was Battler with a red longsword sticking through him, and Lanner. Rest in peace, Ushiromiya Battler. What a shame. I thought you were a more capable person than this. We all thought that. Battler blew bubbles of blood, closed his eyes slowly, and died. Lanner stared on in silence, then turned on her heels when she saw his life leave him. After that, all that remained was the corpse of this sorrowful man, pierced by the sword that acted as a massive red grave marker, and lit by the faint glow let in from the cathedral's skylight. Light. So that went well. And then there is the 3rd riddle the detective must uncover. The final riddle, the why done it. Why did they commit the crime? The motive. In third-rate mysteries, there's no need to uncover this. After all, even if you don't expose the motive, the culprit will just confess it when all is said and done. However, Fudodo Erika was first-rate, so she would expose even this. Natsuhi was being confined in the parlor, under everyone's watchful gazes. Then Erika made use of everyone to diligently and persistently search all places, even Natsuhi's room, for clues about her motive. Well, now that we have all gathered, just what is it that drove Ushiromiya Natsuhi-san to commit these terrible murders? Through my investigation, I, the detective Fudodo Erika, have discovered the general outline that explains this. I would like to announce it now. Everyone remained silent, urging her to continue. Erika tossed some of Natsuhi's possessions that had been confiscated onto the table. First, these are past diaries that were discovered in Natsuhi-san's room. They have barely been used at all in recent years, but they describe in detail the period shortly after she became a part of the Ushiromiya family. Most of them are locked, but in order to find the full truth behind this crime, I used my authority, which everyone has acknowledged, to destroy the locks on all of them. How barbaric. Reading another person's diary. And where barbaric? What does that make you, murderer? A criminal like you has no right to privacy. And this is what I found from these diaries. Natsuhi-san ended up married to Klaus-san due to special circumstances. I imagine that all of you here know much more about this than I do. Natsuhi-san and Klaus-san were not married because of love or as a normal arranged marriage. If anything, it was more like taking a hostage. What? But that is not true. This is written on the 24th page of this red diary. I am a hostage being imprisoned by the Ushiromiya family under the guise of marriage. However, if everything can be resolved this way. Natsuhi-san, right here you've already acknowledged that you were a hostage. Kumasawa-san, you have served Natsuhi-san since the time she first came here, right? Could you tell me about what it was like at the time? Yes, that's correct. I did catch wind of something similar to what you describe. I think that by now, only Dr. Nanjo and I know of the details regarding Madame's marriage.
Very true. That was during Kinzo-san's golden era, when he did whatever he pleased. He defeated all of his enemies and expanded his financial power. Natsuhi-san's family was one of those enemies.
As though the time to talk had suddenly come at hand, Kumasawa and Nanjo openly delved into territory that should never have been touched upon again. This was concerning the period during which Kenzo was most feared for his ferocity. It has been said that though Kenzo had many assets and connections, he held a grudge after being looked down upon by members in the elite as being an upstart. Because of this, apparently, Kenzo wanted to find Klaus a wife from a noble family and use this to raise the Yoshidomiya family's status. Then he overcame Natsuhi's family in a financial struggle and proposed that a marriage be performed as a method of reconciliation. And the person he picked was Natsuhi. Natsuhi had been raised to be clean and pure in a family of Shinto priests, making her a true noble lady. By choosing her, not only did Kenzo cause them the worst possible humiliation, he also won what he considered to be a nice trophy. So that marriage proposal was humiliating to Natsuhi from the very beginning. Regarding the aforementioned facts, both Kumasawa-san and Dr. Nanjo's claims just now match with the contents of the diaries. Therefore, since the time Natsuhi-san first took the name Yoshidomiya Natsuhi, she has held a strong resentment against the Yoshidomiya family. What do you have to say, Natsuhi-san? Do you acknowledge this? All of the cold gazes turned to face Natsuhi.
Yes, it's true that I thought that at first. I thought I was being forced into a marriage without love, a hostage under the guise of a bride. However, my husband never viewed me as a mere hostage. He understood what I had gone through and gave me compassion and affection. My husband was the only person who could understand me.
I see. It makes sense. And there are many scenes in your diaries showing that Klaus-san knew of your difficulties and showed kindness. However, on page 47 of this diary, you describe these moments as being unpleasant, correct? Let me read aloud. When Klaus tries to show kindness, it only makes me feel more wretched. Sometimes I think he might even be trying to humiliate me further. Therefore, we can tell that Natsuhi-san repaid her husband's kindness with contempt.
Wait, yes, I may have felt that at the beginning. Back when I was still overwhelmed with unease, I couldn't accept his kindness and wrote of my distrust from time to time, but I eventually realized he was sincere and grew to accept his feelings.
Well, nothing like that appears in any of these diaries.
I never even wrote it down. Those feelings were so secret.
Judging by many diverse bits of evidence and testimony, it's clear that you despised your husband, and there exists no evidence that you eventually accepted his feelings, as you claim.
I loved my husband.
You can't find any testimony or evidence that can be used to elevate that statement to the level of red truth, right?
Does anyone need evidence to say they're in love?
You can't trust anything besides the red truth. Statements that aren't read don't count as evidence at all, and they can't be trusted at all. All non-read letters are falsehood that exists to deceive me. I love you? Who would believe that when spoken with a white text? No non-read words can ever be trusted. All I can trust in this world are the red truth and the pieces of evidence I offer to my master to gain it. You lying human who can't speak the truth. Humans lacking the red truth have no right to speak of love or the harder truth. Did you know? Men aren't as stupid as you women think they are. Men never really take it seriously when a woman says I love you. Yeah, true. Seriously.
What a pitiful person. I see that you've never truly loved someone.
Romance is unnecessary for a detective. I don't think I've ever used the word romance except to explain a motive for murder.
No matter what you say, we loved each other. I should be apologizing to my husband for always writing down my complaints and nothing else. But I have devoted my heart to him. Even if I can't prove it, that is the truth.
Rejected. You just don't know when to give up, do you? By now, due to evidence and testimony, it's clear you hated both your husband and the Yoshidomiya family.
That's right. I can't even count the number of times I've heard you complain. Oh, and you've never talked behind Hideyoshi-san's back. Damn it, you killed my husband. How dare you say that? Die and apologize to my husband.
Please cease your violence, Ifa-san. This is now the precious moment where I question and convict the culprit. It's not yours, okay? Well then, over the next several years, you appear to have gotten used to her new way of life. But in actuality, an intense hatred still lurked in her heart. Taking that into consideration, there would be nothing odd at all about her deciding to take revenge.
Don't act like you know what I'm thinking.
Each time Erika read Natsuhi's diaries one after another, she exposed more of Natsuhi's emotions during those painful days. Natsuhi hadn't written them to leave those words behind. She had written them to forget those memories and seal them away. That's why she had written down her feelings during those painful days, locked them up and sealed them away for all eternity. However, Erika claimed that these were Natsuhi's true hidden feelings that had been locked away and concealed. Since it had already been concluded that Natsuhi was a murderer, everybody accepted Erika's claim. Everyone. By this point, the red truth wasn't even necessary to establish Natsuhi's motive. As long as the reason seemed plausible, everyone would believe it. No matter how much Natsuhi might object, no one would believe her. No one could accept the truth Natsuhi spoke of about the days she had spent loving her husband. That had been painted over by a false truth in which she hated her husband and swore revenge against him. The pen of the gods that composes the truth had been given to Erika.
And so what? Who gives a damn about your past? Murderer! Murderer!
Stop that. I can understand how Natsuhi-san felt.
I always thought this day would come eventually. Poor thing, poor thing. I think she's just one of the pitiable victims of father's wild life.
I knew of the pain in Madam's heart. I always tried to support her, but I failed, and look what has happened.
I don't even understand the emotions of love and hate.
You will someday. It can become a reason to live, and also a reason to kill.
Is Aunt Natsuhi really the culprit?
Well, now that you mention it, there is just one person besides Natsuhi-san that might be the culprit.
What? Are you serious? Why didn't you say something that important sooner?
Natsui-san, the truth is there is one person besides you for whom the crime was possible. If you truly claim that you are the culprit, it means that person must be the culprit.
Huh? Who is it? Who?
Ushidomiya Kinzo-san. Early this morning, Kinzo-san went outside through the window of the third floor study, and his location is unknown. Isn't that right, Battler-san? Just like Natsuhi-san, Kinzo-san has no alibi whatsoever. The truth is, for this crime, it was possible for Kinzo-san to be the culprit as well. I just assumed that he never existed in the first place, so I totally forgot about him until just now. Allow me to apologize.
She didn't look shy or apologetic in the slightest. Erika bowed in as unpleasant a manner as ever. She had held a grudge ever since her defeat in the study battle.
Natsui-san, you gained Kinzo-san's trust and are the person who served closest to him, right? So shouldn't you know better than anyone else?
Closest.
This incident is actually the crime of the family head carried out by Ushidomiya Kinzo-san. You dare call father a criminal? Don't worry. I have prepared more than enough evidence and testimony to explain the why done it if Kinzo-san was actually the culprit. If you say, for example, that you have put yourself on the line to cover for Kinzo's crime, I am more than capable of supporting you. Ever since the late period of the author Ellery Queen, even the theory created by the detective can sometimes change the plot itself. You really can't afford to be careless in this day and age. I won't let you treat father like the culprit.
Natsu-san, calm down, place your hand on your chest and think carefully. Who is saying that? If you accuse Kinzo-san of being the culprit, this entire case will be resolved. You will no longer be held accountable for another person's actions, and your honor will be restored. In other words, by pushing the crime onto Kinzo, Natsuhi would be saved. However,
I have been entrusted with the honor of the Ushidomiya family by father. Did you really think that I would defy father's honor, the Ushidomiya family honor, just to clear away the false accusations made against me?
Of course, Natsuhi knew that she wasn't the culprit, and she also knew that Kinzo wasn't. So being framed herself and pushing the blame onto Kinzo were both unacceptable, unbearable outcomes.
Are you sure? As I have already established, quite thoroughly, alibis have been proven for everyone except you. If you will not accuse Kinzo-san, then this time it really will be clear that you are the culprit, and that will become the truth, right? If you intend to label me as the culprit and call it your own personal truth, then do whatever you like. I am sure that God knows of my innocence. Eventually he will prove it.
If it came to a choice between her and Kinzo being framed, Natsuhi would sacrifice herself. Perhaps that was her way of protecting the Ushidomiya family's honor. Oh, Natsuhi.
And I even gave you a chance.
Stupid woman. This future where your name will eventually be cleared doesn't exist for any of you, not for any of the pieces on this board. Natsuhi had made her decision. If they were going to call her the culprit, she would let them. She boldly rejected the thought of selling Kinzo's honor to gain a momentary truth where she wasn't the culprit, and therefore, the tale was woven with her as the culprit. In the future, if the accusations against her are proven false, this tale will probably be rewritten. However, that future will never come, I think. Truth is a fleeting thing, even if I am a good person until my death. If some heartless person after my death overwrites the records and says I wasn't a good person, and if that is shared with everyone else, then even all the goodness in which I lived my life could be overwritten easily. That is true, yeah. And kind of scary if you think about it. I'm sure it has happened. More than often enough. in like writing down of history. As they say, history is written by the winners or something. By those who win in war and so on. So they often paint themselves better than they were, and the others worse than they were. I don't know, but well, complicated. And so I think that I won't live as a good person for all eternity.
If you claim that Kinzo-san was not the culprit, he will need an alibi proving that the crime was impossible for him. Otherwise, we cannot truly be certain that you are the culprit, Natsuhi-san.
Erika is probably known for a long time. Kinzo is nothing more than an illusion to make the inheritance problem more uncertain. However, it would be very hard to prove that he was an illusion. The only way to do this would be to confirm Kinzo's death. But as it has been made known by the Red Truth in previous games, Kinzo died a long time ago, and in this 5th game, his corpse hadn't even appeared. In a situation like this, it wouldn't be easy to absolutely prove his death. If Kinzo's death was confirmed, it would practically erase that defeat in the study. It was the only way Erika had of removing the humiliation of that loss, and there was something that could confirm Kinzo's death almost as certainly as real proof, and that was the confession of the culprit. It would mean having Natsuhi herself acknowledge that Kinzo no longer existed in this world. That way it would be acknowledged that Erika's reasoning in the study was correct, that loss would be painted over and would be rewritten as Erika's victory. Yeah, you won't get that. Will you? Bella hung suspended by Leonard's red longsword. Beato had disappeared by having her existence denied, and her minions had gone too. In this cathedral that they had disappeared from, only Natsuhi and the witches convicting her remained.
So, you still claim that Kinzo is alive and remains somewhere on this island? That's correct. Father's in good health. No matter what anyone says, I will not change my statement. The Red Truth from the previous game says that Kinzo is already dead, but that's not enough to satisfy you, right, Ban? Yeah, that's right. I'm after a perfect victory, so there's nothing interesting about getting a checkmate just because Kinzo's death has been confirmed by the Red. I want to win by forcing Natsuhi to say she's resigned. Then why don't you try it? Show us what you've got. My master let us now achieve a perfect victory. Of course. Natsuhi, you say Kinzo is certainly alive, but you don't know where he is, correct? Yes, that's right. Father left through the window and his location is unknown. He's so troublesome sometimes. Lambda, I'm gonna make Kinzo's location from midnight until the morning absolutely clear. From midnight until morning, Kinzo stayed in the same room.
Well, that's true. He was a corpse after all. No, I'm sorry. That's right, totally right.
I won't butt in. It sounds interesting, so keep going. From now on, I'll use the word Kinzo to refer to the living Kinzo. After all, Natsuhi claims that he's alive. I'll say more with the Red Truth. Kinzo does not exist anywhere outside the mansion. Isn't that right, Erika? Yes, my master. I searched for Kinzo all over the premises outside the mansion. However, I was unable to find him.
Because of the detective's authority, Erika could find all clues. Therefore, if Erika was unable to find a hint that Kinzo existed outside the mansion, it was the same as proving that Kinzo didn't exist outside the mansion. Therefore, Biancastle repeated the truth of Erika's.
Kinzo does not exist outside the mansion. Hey, Natsuhi, if Kinzo does exist, then this means he must be somewhere inside the mansion. Do you have any idea where Kinzo might be hiding? How could I know? After all, think of the weather. There would be nothing strange about him leaving the courtyard to hide somewhere in the mansion and dry the rain off. From this point forward, I will repeat the same thing several times. I'll give you many chances for an honorable surrender. If you're too stubborn, you'll lose even your true honor. No matter how you threaten me, I will not give in. I just love teasing beasts like you. Then let us continue.
For the aforementioned reasons, it is unthinkable that Kinzo-san could have been somewhere outside the mansion, so first off I performed an extensive search of the 3rd floor where the study is. However, there was no way we could have been hiding. We couldn't find any trace of Dad on the 3rd floor.
So then where is he, Natsuhi-san? I don't know. If he is on the 3rd floor, perhaps he's hiding in the basement. Ah yes, the basement. The boiler room, that underground storage room, every part of your suspicious basement was also included in my search. Yes, I searched too. I didn't see Father anywhere. I'll say it again. Where is Kinzo-san, Natsuhi-san? In that case, he was probably on the 1st floor or the 2nd floor. I see. Process of elimination does tell us that, doesn't it? We then thoroughly searched the 1st floor. And the result? Nothing. We were unable to find Father. I'll say it again. Where was Kinzo-san, Natsuhi-san? Then he was probably hiding on the second floor. How should I know where father was hiding? Are you sure about that? Do you really not know where Kinzo-san was hiding?
Madam knows where Kinzo-san was hiding.
That's insane.
That can't be true.
Both Shannon and Kano knew that Kinzo was already dead, so they didn't have a clue how Erika would use a phantom of a person who didn't exist to corner Natsuhi. Kinzo is nowhere outside the mansion. Kinzo isn't on the third floor. Kinzo isn't in the basement. Kinzo isn't on the first floor. Therefore, the only place Kinzo could possibly exist is the second floor. I accept that red truth. Natsuhi, Kinzo should be somewhere on the second floor. Will you still not tell us where he is hiding? No matter how many times you ask, it won't change the fact that I don't know. Erika, start from the beginning and go in order, investigating the entire second floor. Use the detective's authority to avoid missing a single clue and to see through all types of hidden doors and hidden rooms. Yes, my master. That Natsuhi-san's pretty dumb, isn't she? She still can't see where we're going with this. No need to talk more than is necessary. Come on, Erika. Take everyone with you and begin the investigation. Erika used her detective's authority to take everyone, even Natsuhi, and go up to the second floor to search every room, starting at one end. Even for rooms that were thought to have nothing at all to do with the crime, Erika did not relax her search in the slightest. Her search was thorough in every single room as they moved through them all. So you still won't tell us where Kinzo-san is hiding? Stop saying that. How many times do I have to say that I don't know? Natsuhi-san, even if we do keep searching, we'll never be able to find Kinzo-san at this rate, right? Of course, Kinzo doesn't exist. No matter how long this search continues, it's just a waste of time. This was known by Erika the Witch's Piece, and Natsuhi the one who knew the truth. But then, where's the corpse? I mean, the corpse was found in previous episodes with 6 toes as well, so his corpse must be somewhere. In that case, the search will end in the room at the far end of that corridor. In other words, it will have been proven that Kinzo wasn't in any of the rooms except that one. What do you think about that? He isn't on the third floor, or the first floor, or the basement, and he isn't in any of the rooms on the second floor except the one at the end. So if he really did exist inside the mansion, it had been proven that he could only exist in that room at the end. In other words, this was Hempel's Raven, because it had been established that the living Kinzo couldn't exist anywhere except the final room at the end of the corridor. That automatically meant that a living Kinzo existed in that final room, and that room at the end of the corridor was... the freezer? Which room was at the end of the corridor again? Lambda Delta was munching on a refill of popcorn. That's Natsuhi's room, Lady Lambda Delta. In other words, Kinzo had no place to hide except inside Natsuhi's room. Do I need to say it in red? Of course. Kinzo does not exist anywhere outside Natsuhi's room. Well then, that means this room is the only place left. It means Kinzo-san isn't anywhere outside this room. Isn't this my room? Where exactly in my room do your climb father's hiding? In a rage, Natsuhi unlocked the door to a room and pointed inside. Of course, Kinzo was nowhere to be seen. Do you see father anywhere in here? Look. I see. Looks like he isn't there. Did you realize we were coming and escape out the window? If Kinzo wasn't in this last room, it meant that he didn't exist anywhere. I think that's what she's going for. She's gonna say he wasn't anywhere outside, he wasn't anywhere inside, so he doesn't actually exist here. There was no living Kinzo outside the mansion. There was no living Kinzo inside the mansion. Therefore, no living Kinzo existed. However, Erika didn't make that argument. She had pointed it out herself without making a checkmate. It was because Bernkastel didn't want to win by cornering Natsuhi with the red truth. She wanted to force Natsuhi to accept a humiliating resignation. I have not only been searching for Kinzo-san himself all this time, I have been looking for signs that Kinzo-san hid somewhere between midnight and the morning, and no such signs have existed. In other words, from midnight until morning, Kinzo was always holed up in the same room, and that was Natsuhi's room. It means the checkmate of the red truth has finally cornered the piece known as Kinzo's phantom inside Natsuhi's room. Hey Natsuhi-san. This means you were with Kinzo in this room until morning. Do you still claim that you didn't know where he was?
I'll acknowledge it with the red truth. During the night between midnight and morning, a living Kinzo could not have existed anywhere outside Natsuhi's room. I permit you to use this truth to advance your argument about how he could only have existed in Natsuhi's room. A plea bargain. Hey Natsuhi, even someone as stupid as you must have realized the fix you're in now. This is your last chance. Make Kinzo the culprit. Call the Yoshidomiya family head a criminal and crush the head's honor to protect yourself. If you show that you have the guts to do that, I'll change the plot into one of a tragic heroine, taking the blame to protect the family head.
Father is innocent. I cannot call father a criminal.
She's refused the deal. Okay, Baron, do it. During the night between midnight and morning, there exists no place for a living Kinzo to exist except inside your bed.
What do you mean by that?
After conducting a thorough search of this room and a detailed scientific examination, I discovered that Kinzo did not exist anywhere in this room between midnight and morning. However, your bed is the only exception. A shocked silence dominated the room. Natsuhi completely forgot to close her open mouth. Last night, around the time the gold was discovered, so probably at about 11 o'clock, Kinzo-san escaped from the window on the 3rd floor and snuck into the bed in your room. And as an even more unfortunate result from my investigation, it has been proven that you were also sleeping in that bed. I'll repeat it. From midnight until morning, the living Kinzo could only have existed inside Natsuhi's bed, and last night Natsuhi also slept in that same bed. Wow, look how close they were. So you two were so close to each other you slept sharing the same pillow? Blue truth. Therefore, it is suspected that Ushidomiya Natsuhi and Ushidomiya Kinzo had sexual relations with each other. Why else would a man and a woman share the same bed all night long?
How rude! Did you think that I would do such a thing with the father I respected so much? I won't allow you to say such things.
Natsuhi, use the red truth to counter this blue truth. Of course, since you are the witch, there's no red that you can use. So I'll speak with the red truth in your place. At least I will if you can show me convincing proof.
How could such proof even exist? How low are you willing to sink to mock me? Damn it.
Natsuhi tried to attack Erika, but Eva pinned her arms behind her back so she couldn't do anything.
How unsightly. In order to take revenge against the Yoshidomiya family, you first schemed to take control of everything the family owned. For that reason, you used your body as a weapon and ensnared Kinzo-san.
I never did anything of the sort. I have never given my body to anyone except my husband.
I understand why you want to deny it, but testimony from several witnesses has already made it clear that you have had repeated secret meetings with Kinzo-san. After all, last night you went to say goodnight to Kinzo-san with just the two of you alone in his study, right? And beyond that, I've collected multiple bits of testimony regarding clear traces of sexual intercourse.
Are you insane? Who was it? Who said something so ridiculous? Goda? Shannon? Was it Eva-san? Yes, you must be behind something this ludicrous. Who was it? Who? Wow.
I've received testimony from those involved. Wow, this is pretty fatal. No room for doubt now. Hey Natsuhi, looks like you don't even have a scrap of honor left now, but I'll give you one final chance before I build you the worst of all possible fragments. Go ahead and say that Kinzo wasn't there, okay? That's right, you sure are stubborn, Natsuhi. The Yoshidomiya family has already been torn to ribbons, right? Are you really that desperate to confuse the inheritance problem by pretending Kinzo exists?
This is my final challenge in protecting the honor of the Yoshidomiya family which father entrusted me with. My husband's business will definitely succeed. Until we can use that to repay our debts, I cannot hand over the inheritance of the Yoshidomiya family. I will protect father and my husband's honor. That is my mission.
Wanting to protect the honor of the dead is an admirable trait. He's not one of the dead. We're talking about the honor of a convenient delusion inside Natsuhi's head. The real Kinzo never once ordered Natsuhi to protect that honor.
As Natsuhi screamed, she fell down to her hands and knees. She no longer had any way to reject the fake truth that Bernkastel and Erika had weaved.
But my name is the Game Master Lambda Delta. I acknowledge Lady Bernkastel as the victor of this game. If anyone has any objections, say your name now.
Of course there were none. All of those who might have objected had been erased.
No objections. Baron, this is your victory, and a wonderful victory it is. Now you must weave up the fragment of the truth. Sure, I'll go weave up the truth. This is the truth of this sad, pathetic tale. Though I did want Natsuhi to acknowledge her crime while half laughing, half crying. After all, that's standard in the genre, right?
How nice. What a happy ending. Yeah. After being forced into a marriage she hadn't wanted, Natsui developed a grudge against the Yoshinomiya family and was filled with a desire for revenge. From the trial synopsis, page 3. Natsui, also hoping to take revenge for the financial submission her parents' family had been forced into by the Yoshinomiyas, schemed to capture the Yoshinomiya family's wealth. From the trial synopsis, page 4. Knowing that the wealth of the Yoshinomiya family was in practical terms under Kinzo's personal control, she initiated sexual relations to curry favor with him and managed to ensnare him. No, don't make even that the truth. From the trial synopsis, page 7, from the Bärenkastel Docs, page 689. To curry favor with Kinzo, Natsui repeatedly imitated Beatrice, the witch of Kinzo's delusions, and engaged in sexual acts. Kinzo saw his long-lost mistress, and Natsuhi was easily ensnared. I shouldn't read it like that. Furthermore, by chance, she was sometimes witnessed in disguise by the servants, and this became part of the foundation for the legend of the witch. From the trial synopsis, page 8. From presented evidence number 17. From the Bärenkastel Docs, page 802. Good lord, Bärenkastel writes too much. However, late at night on October 4th, 1986, Yoshinomiya Butler discovered the hidden gold. The relatives were in an uproar and decided that the Butler should succeed their headship, so Natsuhi planned the crime. She murdered the children in the so-called cousin room and tried to frame Butler for the crime. Furthermore, Genji was murdered for opposing this scheme. Later on, Hideyoshi was also murdered. From this point on, she displayed the strong intent to indiscriminately murder all those involved. From the trial synopsis, page 27. From supplemental materials B, page 61. From the Bärenkastel Docs, page 1103. Good lord. She writes too much. The following outlines the details. Outlines the details of the crime. Midnight, October 4th, 1986, Natsui decided to commit the crime. She asked Genji to assist her but was refused, so she murdered him. That's a bit... yeah, seriously. Page 1189 of 20,333. She then murdered her husband Klaus in his own room. From the trial synopsis, page 40. From supplemental materials S, page 8. From the Bärenkastel Docs, page 1105. From GC Internal Docs, General Affairs A09, number 9974. Is that a reference to anything? It's probably the GameCube Internal Docs. Afterwards, she went to the so-called cousin room on the second floor of the guest house, waited for Rosa to join the rest, and killed George, Jessica, Maria, and Rosa. She damaged the necks of those corpses. Afterwards, because there were people in the lounge on the first floor, she waited in an empty room on the second floor. She hid in this empty room until the people in the lounge dispersed and went to bed. From the trial synopsis, page 41. From supplemental materials, page 10. From the Bärenkastel Docs, page 1131. From GameCube Internal Docs, General Affairs A09, number 9974. The people in the lounge dispersed just after 3 a.m. Natsui left the empty room and escaped from the guest house. I wonder if what we're just reading here could at least give us some clues to the true culprit. She returned to her personal room where she met up with Kinzo, who had been hiding there. She stayed there until morning. Kinzo left the room early next morning and concealed himself somewhere near the guest house. From the trial synopsis, page 41. From supplemental materials as page 29. From the Bärenkastel Docs, page 1200. From GameCube Internal Docs, you know it. Afterwards, Kinzo saw his chance and carried off the corpses of the 6 victims, victims one by one, hiding them. Unfortunately, these hidden corpses have not been found.
From the trial synopsis, page 42, from supplemental blog, GameCube, yeah.
Natsuhi, who had failed in her scheme to cast suspicion on Battler, changed her plan to include the murder of all present. From the trial synopsis, 48, from page 10, bankers on page 1348. Predicting that one of those present would eventually want to take a rest in a private room, Natsuhi concealed herself inside a closet in one of the guest rooms. At about 1 p.m., she murdered Hideyoshi after he entered that room. Page 61, page 26, 9 and 7. Whoa, Bernd Kastel doesn't have anything to say about this, I see. From the time the others became aware of the incident to the time that they carried Hideyoshi's corpse out, Natsuhi once again concealed herself in the closet. Aber echt mal. Furthermore, as proof of this, a button from Natsuhi's clothes was found in the closet. Afterwards, she left the closet and tried to return to her room. However, Furudo Erika found and questioned her first, and she confessed to the crime. Did she? From presented evidence, I mean, she said at the end, then let them call me, blah, blah, blah. From the man, so many. Bernd Kastel Docs, page 1348. Lambda Delta Docs, line 7. So Lambda Delta only wrote one page. From GameCube, internal docs, first subsection U99, and official notice. Hold on, 01. Official. Okay, what is GC? Because that just looks kind of like the number we found on one of the doors. I mean, it doesn't look like the same number, but it's eight numbers again, is what I mean. Check Japanese. Probably the same. Oh. Unsho. Probably chord. Grand General Chord or something. Yeah. So it's not the GameCube after all. Oh, too bad. I like GameCube better. Or maybe it's a giant cockroach. Maybe it's a giant cockroach writing internal docs. Because that's all it does every day. Giant cockroach, son. Okay. GC official notice number 01724434. Due to the result of illusion trial number 0147007982, midnight October 5th, 1986, we announce that the following has been determined: that Oshiromi Natsuhi did admit to her crime. For 13 months following this announcement, related docs may be perused at the Great Court legal offices. It says the Great Court right here. Document Management Center, first subsection. Great Court Deputy Chief, Head Inquisitor of Heresy, Leonard A. Knox. Then let's all assume that I did it, okay? That's what you want me to say, right? Wow. As though she had given up and decided that it would be useless to try and talk her way out of this any longer, Natsuhi screamed that out. It was a sad incident. I wanted to believe that, despite the pitiable circumstances that led to her marriage into the Ushinomiya family, Natsuhi just might have been able to grasp a sliver of happiness together with Uncle Klaus and Jessica. However, by Natsuhi's own doing, Uncle Klaus and even her beloved daughter Jessica had been heartlessly killed. It was even harder to believe that grandfather had been an accomplice and hid the corpses. However, judging by the clear testimony given by several people who knew him, grandfather's mental state for these last few years has been far from what anyone would consider normal. I mean, that's something I can agree to. Perhaps possessed by a mad devotion to the mistress he had lost long ago, grandfather might truly have believed that Natsuhi was a reincarnation of Beatrice. Where is grandfather now? Like Erika had theorized, did he really believe that he could revive Beatrice by carrying out murders following the epitaphs, succumbing to Natsuhi's cajolery? Right now, is he holding some kind of disturbing ceremony with the bodies he carried away? Reminds you of this one Japanese test where you scribble beer kegs and the like on the spare sheet, not having known the teacher was collecting all the sheets she handed out back, not just the ones with the answers. That's kind of funny. I mean, to me. Probably not to you in that moment. Also kind of reminds me how I had a let's say a very eerie professor at university. I think we've talked about her before. And when I was had to hold a referat, I forgot what that is in English. Just as a joke, I wrote, because you had to write your own name, but also the name of the professor where you're holding the whole presentation exactly. I wrote, while I was working on a draft, just a draft of the handout that you give everybody. As a joke, I wrote Professor Dr. Menschenfresserei. And I almost forgot to erase that and correct it before I printed it out. And the handout also goes to the professor. If I had not noticed that in the last moment, she would have become Professor Dr. Menschenfresserei, and yeah, I'm very glad I noticed that. I should never. That taught me to never write jokes like that into anything that you will eventually print out and present to other people. But it gave me a good chuckle afterwards. Okay,
Are you satisfied now? This is what you wanted to make me say, right?
Natsuhi sobbed as she spoke.
This is your revenge, isn't it? You, the man from 19 years ago.
This man from 19 years ago that Natsuhi kept mentioning was supposedly someone who had caught her in some sort of trap. However, she had only mentioned that this man from 19 years ago existed, and she most certainly hadn't tried to explain what had happened 19 years ago.
I'm sure that man is underling is one among us here. I'm sure that right now that man is ridiculing me through one of you. Then tell me, are you happy now? Has a bit of that pain and suffering you've endured for 19 years gone away? I finally understand. The reason you've cornered me so far is because you wanted to make me acknowledge that, right?
Natsui-san, other than us, there's absolutely no one here. Please stop this insanely desperate charade and quit pretending that someone who doesn't exist actually does.
Erika laughed mockingly, but as Natsuhi looked at us, no, as she looked at some being behind us, she hung her head and shook. Then she confessed to her sin.
I committed murder.
So you finally acknowledged your crime directly.
No, you idiot. This is not about what has happened today and yesterday.
I feel like she would have said you idiot there.
I will confess to a murder that occurred 19 years ago.
But I thought she didn't kill her. The adults all whispered together, or kill the baby. The adults all whispered together, wondering what this was about, because they had never heard about a murder case 19 years ago.
19 years ago, I committed a sin. I couldn't forgive it. That baby.
Baby? Now what are you talking about?
On that day 19 years ago, Father entrusted me with a baby. Since I still couldn't bear a successor on my own, Father told me to adopt a child. And he made me hold a baby that he said had been brought here from an orphanage. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was to me as a woman?
With a mix of conflicting emotions of anger, sadness, regret, and possibly defiance, Natsuhi confessed. Her humiliation as a woman when she was no longer expected to bear a child, and also the indescribably unpleasant feeling of being made to hold an unfamiliar baby, it caused her great sadness and rage, and before very many nights passed, it ate a hole into her heart. And then I sold my soul to demons. It happened when I went on a walk through the rose garden to the harbor, along with a servant holding the baby. I wanted to be alone, but that female servant holding the baby faithfully followed me everywhere. I was unable even to tell her to stop following me, and therefore unable to escape from the child crying. That day marked the beginning of 19 long, headache-filled years. Then we faced the cliff from across the fence. If by taking that baby and throwing it down into the rocky beach far below me, I could undo it all. I really did listen to that demon's temptation. Then, for the smallest of moments, I thought of how wonderful it would be if I really could do that, and lent an ear to the temptation. At that time, the servant holding the baby stepped on a large rock, twisted her ankle and staggered. She leaned against the rough fence, and at that time, I thought I heard the fence creak loudly. I told her to look out and try to grab her shoulder. No, I shouldn't be so vague. I'll repent.
I'll confess. At that moment, I'm sure that as I told her to look out, with both hands I reached for the servant's shoulders and with a thud, pushed her away hard.
The rough fence snapped from the base, and the servant, along with the baby held in her arms, fell down towards the rocky beach below. Even though I remember that moment vividly, for some reason I recall a vague and very strange feeling. It almost felt as though instead of falling, the two of them were silently swallowed up into empty space. So I didn't even hear the sound of them crashing to the rocky beach. No, I'm sure I heard it, but because I wanted to think that they disappeared, I must have erased that sound from my memory. And then,
For an instant I thought it was a dream. It was high enough that I couldn't see the two of them below me just by leaning over, so I didn't know whether they fall or the few seconds before that had actually happened or not. I must have been wishing so strongly that the child would fall that it just had a daydream. Trying to make myself believe this, I hurried back to the rose garden. Then I decided to let the servant take care of the baby, choosing to take a rest alone in the garden. Then Father asked what had happened to the baby, and an uproar began over the disappearance of the servant who had been in charge of it. Eventually the broken fence was discovered, and 2 corpses were found at the bottom of the cliff. The child had apparently been here for reasons that couldn't become known, so its existence was hushed up, and the official story was that the servant had had an accident on her own and died. That's right, I stole away 2 innocent lives in one go. As for the poor servant, her family was graciously compensated. Her aged husband, who didn't know the truth, accepted this even though he grieved over the unfortunate accident. Then, just a few years ago, he died of old age, and I confessed the truth over his grave, apologizing. But until this day, I have never apologized to that baby. Yes, that's what you're after, isn't it? So right here, right now, I'll confess to my crime. I, Ushidomi Anatsuhi, did 19 years ago push you off a cliff and try to kill you. But you didn't die, did you? You're still alive, and you still call me mother. You came to this island and took your revenge on me, didn't you? For these 19 years, you knew that the one you should have called your mother pushed you off a cliff, and you must have lived a very hate-filled life. And now you've taken everything I've gained since pushing you off the cliff, 18 years of my life, and smashed it all to pieces. I no longer have my beloved husband and daughter, and I've lost even my honor, and I'm being called a murderer. No, really, I am a murderer, aren't I? Yes, that's right. It all went according to your plans. I'm now regarded as a killer. How's that? Is this enough for your revenge? My husband and daughter have been killed. I've been made to look like a murderer, like an adulteress even. After seeing me living in disgrace like this, are you satisfied? Yes, I'll bet you're quite satisfied, because my family, my honor, everything has been stolen from me. After all this, do you still claim that you were framed? Seriously, you just don't know when to give up. Can you hear me? You, the cursed child from 19 years ago. Are you satisfied now? You've stolen everything from me now. What else could you want? Please, just forgive me.
It's useless, isn't it?
Huh? Bella-san, did you say something?
It's all useless.
Bella-kun?
Yeah, it's useless, isn't it? It's all useless.
Ah.
Of course. So we're having tea parties again? I don't even know what to say anymore. Was that supposed to imply that Battler is this child? But well, that couldn't make any sense, could it? Yeah, super happy.